You're listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast, where I'll be giving valuable insight and thought provoking perspectives about the connections between our hair and how we live our daily lives. I know that many of you have heard people talking about Jerry curls and pressing curls, high top fades and sporting waves, the best products for your hair, and so much more. But what you haven't heard is how our hair can be a full reflection of what's going on in our hearts, what's going on in our minds, what's going on in our bodies, and what's going on in our souls. I'm your host, Darius Peace, and I'm excited to be your weekly guide on the journey to having better hair and a better life. So recording podcasts has become has been very therapeutic for me. There are people out there who journal, who like to write, but I don't really like to write. I do write and I love paper. I have a relationship with paper, but I prefer speaking. And podcasts really allow me to release in ways that I have not always been able to. So there's a lot of therapy in it for me, and I'm just so grateful for that. I just left getting a massage. And it's so interesting how sometimes like that can sound so bougie, like, yes, I just left getting a massage. But it's the therapy for me. Whenever I'm working in the salon, which I still do actively work in the salon behind the chair at Haya Beauty. It's a lot of stress on my body because I'm standing up for, anywhere between 8 to 14 hours on the days that we're open, which is only 3 days. But it's still very stressful on my body. And so when I go and get massage therapy, it's to help alleviate and manage the stress that I experience in my body. But what's cool about it is that I really get to manage and alleviate the stress that occurs in my mind and occurs in my heart. And just all of the emotional stresses that I experience, I get to deal with that and manage that in the massage therapy. And so, coming off of a massage and coming into the podcast studio is therapy because I've just experienced the alleviation of, and I keep saying alleviation, but that's what I'm saying right now, alleviation of the body stress. And now I'm allowing myself to release and manage my mental stuff. I don't want to call it stress because this is not stressful, but I'm ready to manage. So when I was on the massage table, I was allowing myself to feel and see myself. And I was reminded by the therapist over at Life Touch Massage to breathe. And it's so interesting how breathing is such a fundamental part of our existence that we can oftentimes forget to do. And although we naturally breathe involuntarily, to think about breathing and remembering to take a deep breath and release, that's something that I should do a whole lot more of, and I forget to do it. So I'm just practicing the skill of remembering to breathe and actively breathing. So I'm going to take a deep breath right now, and I want y'all to take a deep breath too, just so we can remember to breathe. Let's breathe in. Exhale. One more time. Exhale. We're going to do it one more time. Breathe in. Y'all, I really needed that. And I'm sure that somebody out there needed that same thing. We just got to remember to breathe, y'all. And, although the content that I'm discussing today is much lighter than what other podcasts that I've done have been, but we just needed to take a breath, take a moment to breathe and remember to breathe and let out the stress and let out the anxiety and let out even the joy, because our joy, it's not supposed to stay inside. We got to let that out too so that we can make room for more of it. But we've taken our deep breaths. I was aware of myself in the massage therapy studio, and I recognized the stress that I was carrying in my belly and in my neck, and I also recognized that I was carrying shame. And I've been talking about shame and how it pertains to, a lot of the experiences that we have with our hair, the shame that we've carried with our hair texture, our hair length, our hair conditions, our hair thickness, our hair color, everything about our hair. And it's not just a black thing. This is something that exists across the board, just shame. That's why we have the topic title, or the podcast title, My Hair Ain't Nappy, the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. That is a declaration of it ain't nappy, to really help us to get rid of the shame that we carry, and it turns into stress. And I was ashamed of my belly on the massage table studio. It's like the therapist said, take a breath, and I was pretty hesitant about taking a breath because I'm concerned about my belly. Like, does my belly look big? Is it, when I inhale, is it sticking out too much? And I just had to let that go. So anyway, today we're talking about hair myths, y'all, which seems like it's totally different, which it is. It's totally different from that. But, there are parts of us dispelling some common hair myths today that are going to fall right in line with what it is that I'm talking about regarding breathing and regarding stress and all of this stuff. So let's get right into it, y'all.
Speakers, coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs. Whether you're keynoting events, growing your business, or commanding the boardroom, you are highly skilled and accomplished at what you do. But something's missing. You don't have a cohesive brand to match your level of success. But not to worry, that's where we come in. We're Honeysuckle Lane Creative Co., and we create stunning visuals that capture the essence of your business and give you the online presence of your dreams. With a full suite of creative services, including photography, web design, graphic design, and marketing strategy, we make sure you're as extraordinary online as you are in your area of expertise. Ditch the DIY and work with an experienced team that gets results. Find us online at honeysucklelanecreative.com and on Instagram at honeysuckleLane_creative. Let's bring your brilliance to life with an unforgettable brand.
Darius, now that people have heard my voice on your podcast and they're familiar with who I am, I'm a little bit more comfortable opening my mouth on the mic. I know you say you get excited when I do.
I do.
That was so interesting to me from an artistic standpoint, from a creative standpoint, what you just did, because I was like, where is he going? What is he doing? Okay, that's good. Stop it right there. But one of the things that I appreciate about this podcast, and I'm going to lead this into where I feel like you're going, is that when you and I first discussed doing a podcast, right, we said that we wanted to talk about the connections between hair, natural hair, and life, what we see in the communities. Mm-hmm. And for you to do that, and I think maybe subconsciously, because we're recording on a Monday, this particular episode, I'm like, man, somebody, as you said, is going to hear that, and it's going to unweight them, and they'll be able to really digest what you have to say further. Yeah. And actually, this because you were talking before recording, it actually helped unweight me. I say all that to say, quote unquote, live and on air, since this will get played at a later date, I challenge you to continue to lean into that, to lean into, okay, this is where I know we are. This is where I know y'all are. Here's how I'm going to talk to you, and maybe here's some ways that we can get through it. So the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's good, because that's what I want. I want to make sure that every time, I get behind this mic, that I'm giving what is fresh, what is current, not processed. It's almost like processed food. I know processed food may have a good taste, but it doesn't necessarily fuel our bodies. I want to make sure that I am presenting what's going to fuel our hearts, what's going to fuel our minds, what's going to fuel our bodies, and what's going to fuel our souls, so that we can keep on moving forward and not continue experiencing. Well, all this life is going to be there, but this allows us to better navigate through life and better manage whatever comes our way. So, dispelling common hair myths is what we're talking about today. Y'all, these hair myths can get us in so much trouble with our hair. And they just it's like folklore that just carries itself through generations. Like, oh yeah, well, you don't want to do this with your hair because of this, or you don't want to do that with your hair because of this. So let's dispel some hair myths. We're gonna start with gray hair. There are so many people out there who think that stress causes gray hair. I hear people all the time say, I was fine before I started having kids, and I started having kids, and they started stressing me out, and then my hair got gray, or my husband started stressing me out, and my hair got gray, or my wife started stressing me out, and my hair got gray. But y'all, that could not be any farther from the truth than what it sounds like. Gray hair is not caused by or is not the result of stress. Actually, gray hair is the result of our cells lowering the melanin production in our bodies to our hair. And so there's no scientific evidence anywhere that proves that stress is the culprit of gray hair growth. But it's just when our cells stop producing melanin, and that's just a part of aging. That's a part of the process. But it's actually a beautiful thing. I always encourage people to embrace the gray, because when we do that, we typically experience a healthier head of hair, or a fuller, more dense head of hair with our gray. So we getting rid of that. Just take that out of your thought process. Stress does not cause gray hair. That's number one. Myth number two: plucking gray hair will make your hair grow, will make more gray hairs grow. Y'all, I just want to know. And when we listen to it, pulling out the gray hair is going to make more gray hair come. That doesn't make any sense either. When we really think about it, plucking gray hairs does not make more gray hair come in. So we're dispelling that myth right there. Plucking gray hair, or any hair for that matter, can do the total opposite of growth. This is a bad habit because it can result in damaged follicles, pulling the hair out. It can result in scarring below the follicular area. And I know my terms are going to seem a little clinic today, but I'll break all of that down. Those holes in our heads where the hair grows out, that's called the follicle. So when I say follicle or follicular, that's referring to those little holes in our heads in which the hair grows. But a lot of times when we pull through the hair or do anything that can cause any type of traction to our scalp, we compromise those follicles, those holes, and they can swell, they can inflame, they can close altogether, they can scar under there, which prohibits the hair from coming through as easily as it should be able to. So if you're out there plucking your gray hairs out, stop. And please don't think that your hair is going to grow more, or more gray hair is going to come as a result of plucking it. That could be no farther from the truth. So let's stop doing that. And if you know somebody out there doing the same thing, please stop them. I was kind of apprehensive about doing this particular podcast because it didn't seem as heavy as many of the other podcasts that I've done, or it didn't seem as deep. But I was advised by my wife and my producer here at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast that they can't all be the same. We've got to diversify this thing and make sure that it's showcasing me as Darius Peace, your natural hair expert. Like, how can I showcase myself as that if I'm not able to teach and educate and inspire and empower and motivate and transform everyone regarding hair practices? So that's why I've decided to talk about dispelling hair myths today, because these are what gets so many of us in trouble with our hair and cause well more damage than we have to experience because we don't know any better. So we're dispelling these myths. I got another one, y'all. And it's funny, while I'm doing these, if you have any hair myths that you've heard in the past or that you currently still hear, I want you to join us on our social media pages and put that out there. Put that in one of the comment sections regarding this podcast episode right here, Dispelling Hair Myths. You can follow us at My Hair Ain't Nappy on TikTok. That's at My Hair Ain't Nappy, and on Instagram at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. As a matter of fact, let me correct that. On TikTok, it's at My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. I wanted it to be the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast, but that was too many characters for me to put behind that, so they wouldn't let me do it. So on TikTok, we're actually at My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. And on Instagram, we're at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. So that's the difference between the two. But My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast is what's consistent between both. So comment there. And we're also on Facebook at My Hair Ain't Nappy. Dirty hair grows. Y'all, I have heard so many people, and I may want to even say nasty people, say, yeah, dirty hair grows. False. Dirty hair does not grow. Dirty hair is just dirty. Dirt is not fertilizer for hair. As a matter of fact, hair is likely to grow. Hair is likely to grow whether the hair is dirt, whether the scalp is dirty or clean. But we just talked about follicular areas of our hair. When we're talking about follicular clogging and follicular damage, when you allow your hair to be dirty with buildup of product and dirt and sweat and grease and gunk and all kind of stuff, we end up clogging our pores, our follicles. And there's really little opportunity for the hair to really grow through like it needs to because it's blocked. So we don't want to create any blockages because we've chosen to activate the belief that dirty hair grows. That's not true. If your hair is dirty, we need to shampoo it with the proper shampoo, condition our hair, and move forward from there. So if you ever hear anybody saying dirty hair grows, dismiss that. That is not true because dirty hair does not grow. Hair is more likely to grow from a clean scalp, from a healthy scalp, not from pores being clogged with grease and all that stuff. Another common hair myth. That was my Southern Afro vernacular coming out. Another one. Using rubber bands on toddler hair makes it grow. No. I've seen so many little girls in my lifetime with excessively tight rubber bands pulling their hair out because we have parents who are desperate for their little girls to have long hair, long flowing hair, and putting these rubber bands are going to pull the hair as a way to activate or stimulate the growth. Y'all, that is so not true. One of the common words that I keep talking about in dispelling these myths is the follicle. So pulling the hair excessively tight with rubber bands or ponytail holders or even braids for that matter can lead to alopecia. Alopecia is hair loss, and there's so many different forms of alopecia out there, but this particular type of alopecia that I'm talking about is a form of traction alopecia, and it's not just one type of traction alopecia. There are many. And we'll go more into detail about alopecia and common reasons and causes for alopecia and treatments for alopecia in a different podcast. But in this one right here, we just want to at least give you a nugget on stopping with the rubber band stuff. It doesn't make sense. Like, if we really think about it, children aren't dolls. And so it's not like there's just a lot of hair on the inside that you got to pull out. We're talking about protein and growth and science and all of this stuff. So let's stop with that. No excessively tight rubber bands on toddlers' hair because it can create follicular damage, which is closing of the pores or scarring of the pores under the skin that will result in the hair not being able to grow in those areas anymore. That's why you see so many women, and particularly black women, with missing edges or hair loss around the perimeter of their heads because of excessively tight follicles where scarring or further damage is likely to take place, which can really stop or alter the hair growth altogether. So we want to just exercise better practices and not use excessively tight rubber bands on toddler hair, thinking that it's going to help it grow or make it grow, because that is not true. It's a myth, and we must dispel of it today, y'all. We want our little girls and our little boys and our people to grow full, lush, healthy heads of hair without any compromise to our follicles, which is the holes in our heads where the hair grows out. The pores where our hair grows out. Another common myth, greasing the scalp makes the hair grow. In the same way that I said that dirty hair is less likely to grow like that, hair grease is best used on the hair and not the scalp. So I know that Madam C.J. Walker, with her ingenuity, really popularized the use of greases and salves on the hair and scalp, creating a multi-million dollar empire at the beginning of the 20th century. And that was unheard of and so amazing and so inspirational for many of us out there. She was the first female black millionaire, or known black millionaire, in the United States. And that's incredible. And so she popularized the use of grease and salves on the hair and scalp. But when we apply the grease to the scalp, that's a temporary fix. That's a temporary fix that is used until you're able to wash your hair. And it's best that you wash your hair sooner than later when you use grease to soothe the scalp from any dryness or itchiness that you may be experiencing. Grease on the hair was perhaps the first conditioner that black folks used on our hair. And a lot of us stopped using it because it became messy in a lot of cases, or it would weigh the hair down. But what I will say about grease is that it did keep our hair healthy. It kept it moist. It kept it elastic. Elastic meaning, our hair is able to be stretched and bounce back into place. It kept it slick and pliable for brushing and combing. And when you really think about it, all those out there who are old enough to remember the press and curl, you remember using that grease on the hair is what really kept it. It was when people got out of those practices and started using a lot of chemical processes or excessive heat processes without the use of grease that people's hair started hitting the floor or stopped not being as fortified as it was back then. So on the hair, I think that a little grease is fine. But on the scalp, grease does not make your hair grow. It does what dirty hair does. It clogs the pores, oftentimes making it harder for the hair to really grow at its best potential. So that should be a temporary solution for soothing the scalp from any dryness or itchiness, but we should not, continue adopting or perpetuating the belief that grease makes the hair grow. That is not true. Let's dismiss it right now. Grease does not make the hair grow. Next myth. Dandruff is caused by dry scalp. I had to breathe on that one. Another deep breath. False. Dandruff is not caused by dry scalp. As a matter of fact, what we recognize as dandruff is in many cases a yeast buildup on the scalp that can occur for so many different factors, ranging from stress, ranging from environmental influences, ranging from genetic factors. And when I say environmental influences, I mean like allergies. So there are a lot of reasons that we can experience this buildup of yeast on the scalp, which is inflammatory, swelling. But dandruff is caused by an oily scalp or yeast-activated fungus that stimulates from an overproduction of dead cell buildup and shedding of the skin. And usually, dandruff flakes are big and yellowish, and the scalp looks greasy when you see damage. But when you see it the other way around, that's typically a showcase of something else. And so I always tell people, if you're experiencing anything like that, there's certain things that you don't want to do. Don't tell grandbaby to come and scratch the dandruff out of your head, because that can be damaging to the scalp, or somebody to come and scratch my dandruff, which is so nasty to me, but people do it all the time, and a lot of people find it therapeutic. But that's something that I would always suggest to be assessed by a licensed and board certified dermatologist. That's an internal thing, and so we want to find out exactly what's going on in the body that's causing that, so that we can treat it from the inside out and not call it what is not. Because a lot of times, if it's not falling under the description of what I just stated with oily scalp or wet scalp or yellowish flakes, then it's less likely to be dandruff. It may be something else, and so I think it's best to get that medically assessed and treated. And then a lot of times, the flakes may just be something due to dry scalp, lacking moisture. It can be styling, product overload. It can be buildup of product. It could be time for you to shampoo your hair. I have people who come into the salon once a month, and sometimes they'll complain to me saying, yeah, my scalp has been acting up so much. But I'm like, well, I mean, let's think about it. You have not had any water on your scalp for 29 days in many cases. So that's a long time to not experience hydration of the scalp. And so if it's dry and if it's itchy, it makes sense. There's just a need for more water to the scalp, more cleansing to the scalp, more shampoo and conditioning treatments. So just something to consider. A skin condition called psoriasis is something that we may be experiencing. Seborrheic dermatitis or eczema. These are all common skin conditions and scalp conditions that cause flakes to appear. And so, over-the-counter shampoos are what a lot of people use, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I strongly suggest that if you are experiencing any form of what you think is dandruff or what you know is dandruff, please go and get a dermatological assessment done so that it can be treated properly. Otherwise, you're less likely to create more damage. And we don't want to do that because of a common myth of dandruff is caused by dry scalp. That's far from the truth. So if you're experiencing anything like that, go and see a dermatologist or your dermatologist for a proper diagnosis, especially in the cases where you're not seeing any improvement for what you're doing at home. So dismiss that. Next myth, and I hope that this is interesting because, again, sometimes I can get really insecure about whether my content is boring, because I don't want it to be boring. I want it to be informational and helpful and really impactful for people.
Let me jump in.
Yes, sir.
In the most positive way. I'm trying to think how to verbalize this because a lot of stuff makes sense in our heads before we say it out loud, right? Thursday, I think it was Thursday when last recorded. I was frustrated because you were like, man, is this good content? Is this something I should continue doing? And in my head, I was like, why the hell is he asking me this? Like, the stuff he's been recording the last couple of weeks are phenomenal.
And well, thank you.
I just want to tell you, as the person that is right here and hears it live in real time when you're recording, like, these are things, what I'm trying to verbalize to you, Darius, is these are things that people not only need to hear, but want to hear. And when you can find that middle ground, that is gold. That is magic. Because here's what we struggle with as humans. So I'm speaking to you, but this is also for the audience. We struggle with admitting to ourselves, okay, this is what I or they or we need to hear. It's very easy to verbalize what we want to do, say, hear, etc. You are doing such a good job of kind of taking people through this journey, and my mind is like, hey, you got to stop that because this is good. Don't doubt that people are getting something out of this. Trust me.
Well, that's good. So thank you. So that's a part of my journey. I got to stop doubting that y'all are getting something good out of this, because that's my intent. My intent and my objective here is to make sure that you get something that is going to help make your hair and life experience better. That's what the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast is all about. That's actually our mission. So Oh, this is a real common one right here, y'all. There's so many women who will come into the salon and say, "Hey, Peace, I've been using my biotin and it's helping my hair grow." And biotin, there is no strong evidence that proves or supports that using biotin supplements or biotin additions in products is promoting hair growth. That's the thing about biotin, and I'm not saying stop using biotin, because the thing is that products that have biotin in them are actually good for the entire body. So you're doing some good to the body by giving it that. But unless you're experiencing a biotin deficiency in the body, you may not be experiencing hair growth because of the biotin. And it's not like you're just influencing hair growth on your head. When you're talking about biotin being used for hair growth, you may not get any more hair growth on your head. You may get more under your chin or under your arms or in your pubic area or wherever, on your legs or wherever your hair grows. It's not just limited to, I'm going to grow more hair on my head because I've been taking biotin supplements. Biotin supplements are most effective when there is a biotin deficiency in the body. And unless you've gone to the doctor regarding concerns that you may have about your hair growth, and the doctor has done an assessment and been able to diagnose you as having a deficiency with biotin, I wouldn't necessarily go and make purchases of these type products because marketers are saying, "Oh yeah, go get this product or go get that product." And I don't mind saying that right now. I know I'm not one who is so hungry for marketing dollars that, I'm scared to tell y'all what is true and what is right. It's not that deep for me. I want to make sure that everybody is on the path and the journey to having a better experience in every way. And biotin products are not the end all solution for hair growth for everybody. Is it good to take biotin? Absolutely, because it's a benefit for the body. It's a vitamin, it's a mineral, it's a supplement for what your body naturally produces. But it is not, there's no proof or strong evidence that shows that it promotes hair growth in the way that we want it to. So that's just a common myth that I'm dispelling right now. And until we get more scientific evidence that proves otherwise, I'm saying, if you're going to take the biotin, do it for your whole body, not just for your hair growth. And I don't want anybody to assume that that's what it's only influencing your head hair growth. Got another one here. Braids and weaves are protective styles. Y'all, that protective style label was popularized with the influence of YouTube during the early 2000s when the natural hair movement started to become more popularized globally. And there were a lot of people who would get braids as a means of transitioning their hair from chemical processes like the relaxer. They would use braids and weaves and all those different styles and call them protective styles. And whenever I would hear that, I would always think to myself, protective? I don't think that that's a really good term to use regarding people getting braids or getting weaves. And mainly because any style that you're wearing on your hair should be protective. Like, your hair should always be protective. It shouldn't, be contingent upon any extension or addition for that type of protection. And then I was thinking to myself, so many people have experienced so much loss and damage from the improper installation or removal of braids and weaves. And we see that the proof is in the pudding all over the place. I talked about it earlier in this podcast about people experiencing so many different forms of traction alopecia because of the use of braids and weaves and just improper treatments of these style options. Like, that's not a protective style. It's a hairstyle and it's a convenient hairstyle, but I wouldn't call it protective. What I like to use as a a better and more accurate description of styles that allow us to let our hair grow without compromise, I like to call them preservation styles. But I still wouldn't even throw braids and weaves in that category unless they are installed properly and removed properly, and you are experiencing preservation and retention of length and thickness as a result. So let's dispel that myth that braids and weaves are protective styles, because they're not always protective styles. As a matter of fact, Eric, what's the opposite of protect? To harm or damage?
I was going to say destroy.
Destroy. So destroy, harm, or damage. They can actually be destructive. So instead of protective, they can be destructive. So, and I'm not saying the keyword can be, not are, because I don't want the braid and the weave Nazis coming for me on this social media platform saying, well, I did, and my braids don't do this. And it's like, generally speaking, we're saying that braids and weaves can be destructive and are less likely to be protective for the hair unless they are installed and removed properly. So we're going to get rid of that myth. Trimming the ends make the hair grow. Lie, lie, lie. False. That is not true. Trimming the ends do not make the hair grow. As a matter, what I will say is trimming the ends can leave the ends with a cleaner look, just more precision in the flow of the hair on the head. It can showcase the hair as looking fuller, and sometimes it can create the illusion of the hair looking longer, depending on what the cut is. But it doesn't make the hair grow. We have to always remember, when it comes to hair growth, hair grows from the inside out. And so most of the things that we do topically to the hair influence the retention of what has grown, but it doesn't make the hair grow. So let's get rid of that myth. Trimming the ends does not make the hair grow. It just makes it easier to manage, easier to comb, and it gives it a better look overall. So let's see. I got another one here. This is a good one right here. Using Monistat cream gets rid of dandruff. Now, I'm not going to say that that's completely false, because what we recognize as dandruff, based on what I quoted earlier about dandruff being a result of dry scalp, we've learned that dandruff, what we know as dandruff or see as dandruff or call dandruff, is buildup. It's a yeast and fungal buildup, and we know that the active ingredient in Monistat product is what can help to eliminate yeast buildup, destroy yeast buildup or fungus. But I don't say, if you're experiencing dandruff, go and get Monistat. What I always recommend is go to a dermatologist who is, licensed and board certified to be able to assess what's going on with your scalp and let you know if there's something that they can recommend to get rid of any yeast buildup or any dryness or whatever you're experiencing. But don't just go out here just because you heard somebody on YouTube saying, girl, I went and got some Monistat and I was treating down there, but I also decided to treat up here, and that may not be what your diagnosis is. And so, let's dispel that. But, there's some truth to it, but it's still a myth at the end of the day. On my way to record the podcast, I saw a beautiful rich skin chocolate queen. And I don't usually use the term dark skin. I like to say rich skin. It just has a better connotation. But I saw a richer skin tone black woman walking with just this beautiful showcase of blonde in her afro, highlighted into her afro. It was gorgeous, y'all. And so I think about how many women I try to inspire to wear different hair colors. And when I'm dealing with richer skin tone black women, a lot of them have been apprehensive in the past about wearing lighter colors because they've been told, dark skinned women can't wear light colors because it don't look right on you. And that is a lie. That is a myth. I think that anybody with any skin tone, especially richer skin tones, can wear any color as long as the tone of the color is a complement to their skin. We know primary colors. For those who may know the color wheel, and we learned it when we were in elementary school, we learned that primary colors are yellow, red, and green. No, yellow and blue makes green. No, yeah, yellow, red, and green. Those are our primary colors. And when we mix these colors, that's when we start to get those complements. And so finding a tone that complements you will allow you to wear any hair color that you want to wear. So that's a myth that's dispelled right now. There's so many, and we'll do another podcast with some more myths on this one, but we got to close this one out. I'm so grateful for everybody who's listening to this podcast today. I never take that for granted. Always remember, y'all, your hair ain't nappy, and my hair ain't nappy either. Until next time, don't forget to follow us on social media. You got any comments or you got any hair myths, share them. I can't wait to read them. Until next time. Love you and love your hair.
Visit HayaBeauty.com. That's HAYAH beauty.com, or give us a call 205-703-8022 for questions, for information, or to book your appointment.
Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. I am, I was, and I always will be. Beauty higher. Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. And I always choose to start my day with higher, higher beauty.
Thank you for listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. Reach out to us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Facebook. All the platforms at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. We want to hear your own stories. Until next time, love you and love your hair.